Hello and welcome to Millennium News Hour. I am Tanziba Nawreen. In today's bulletin, we will present top and trending news from across the nation and the world. Let's begin with the headlines of the day. Biden-Trudeau meet on migration, China and more. Trump lawyer in court after being forced before grand jury. House GOP passes parents' rights bill in clash over schools. US launches airstrikes in Syria after drone kills US worker. Court blocks COVID-19 vaccine mandate for US government workers. Kentucky governor vetoes sweeping GOP transgender measure. Los Angeles school strike ends, but no deal announced. Radioactive water leaks at Minnesota nuclear plant for second time. Kids in Utah will need parents' okay to access social media. Rap artist Afroman sued by officers who raided his home. Russian strikes in Ukraine kill 10 civilians, wound 20 more. China threatens consequences over US warships' actions. India expels Modi critic from parliament after conviction. Pakistani court grants protection to Imran Khan from arrest. Florida Atlantic makes first Elite Eight, bounces Tennessee. And South Carolina's leading scorer Jackson heads to NBA draft. You were listening to Headlines, now news in detail. President Joe Biden and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced an agreement aiming to stem the flow of asylum seekers at unofficial border crossings from the US to Canada. The agreement on Friday came as Biden makes his first visit to Canada as president. Wide-ranging Trudeau-Biden talks also were touching on the 13-month-old war in Ukraine, military spending, shared concerns about China's aggressiveness and violence, and political instability in Haiti. Biden and Trudeau met for private talks before the US president was to deliver a speech to the Canadian Parliament. The leaders also were to hold a joint press conference, and Trudeau and his wife Sophie Gregoire Trudeau were to host Biden and First Lady Jill Biden for a gala dinner before the visiting Americans were returning to the US. Biden, in brief comments at the start of the Friday meeting, said he often tells other world leaders the United States is lucky to have Canada as a neighbor. We disagree on things occasionally, but there is no fundamental difference in the democratic values we share, and it really makes a big difference, Biden said. Trudeau, for his part, noted that he has been able to work closely with Biden on economic, climate, and security issues. We have no greater friend and ally than the United States, he said. A lawyer for Donald Trump was back in court Friday after being ordered to answer questions before a grand jury investigating the possible mishandling of classified documents at the former president's Florida state. M. Evan Corcoran entered federal court in the District of Columbia early Friday morning, 1 week after a federal judge ruled in favor of the Justice Department in forcing Corcoran to answer additional questions before a grand jury that has been hearing testimony for months. He did not make any comments as he arrived at the building. The interest by prosecutors in Corcoran's testimony underscores the legal peril confronting Trump, making clear the department's continued focus. A search warrant affidavit released last August. Corcoran is relevant to the investigation because he drafted a letter that was given to the department last June asserting that a diligent search for classified documents had been done in response to a subpoena. The letter was accompanied by the return of roughly 3 dozen documents with classified markings, but prosecutors have said in court filings they developed evidence showing that additional classified documents remained at the property. The FBI returned with a search warrant on August 8 and removed roughly 100 additional classified documents, the filings show. Attorney-client privilege traditionally shields lawyers from being forced to share details of their conversations with prosecutors. Corcoran invoked that privilege during an earlier appearance before the grand jury when he declined to answer certain questions. House Republicans on Friday narrowly passed legislation that would fulfill a campaign promise to give parents a role in what's taught in public schools. It has little chance in the Democrat-run Senate, and critics said it would propel a far-right movement that has led to book bans, restrictions aimed at transgender students, and raucous school board meetings across the country. Speaker Kevin McCarthy, representative of California, who made the Parents' Bill of Rights Act a priority during the early weeks of his tenure, said Republicans were keeping our promise, our commitment to America, that parents will have a say in their kids' education. The bill passed 213-208 with 5 Republicans, mostly members of the House Freedom Caucus, voting against it. It would require schools to publish course studies and a list of books kept in libraries, as well as affirm parents' ability to meet with educators, speak at school board meetings, and examine school budgets. In the Senate, Majority Leader Chuck Schumer promised that the legislation would face a dead end. He said it was further evidence that the House GOP had been overtaken by hard-right MAGA ideologues, referencing former President Donald Trump's Make America Great Again campaign slogan. A strike Thursday by a suspected Iranian-made drone killed a U.S. contractor and wounded 6 other Americans in northeast Syria, and U.S. forces retaliated with airstrikes on sites in Syria used by groups affiliated with Iran's Revolutionary Guard, the Pentagon said. Activists said the U.S. bombing killed at least 4 people. While it's not the first time the U.S. and Iran have traded strikes in Syria, the attack and the U.S. response threatened to upend recent efforts to de-escalate tensions across the wider Middle East, whose rival powers have made steps toward detente in recent days after years of turmoil. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said in a statement that the American intelligence community had determined the drone was of Iranian origin, but offered no other immediate evidence to support the claim. The drone hit a coalition base in the northeast Syrian city of Hasaka. The wounded included 5 American service members and a U.S. contractor. Austin said the strikes were a response to the drone attack, as well as a series of recent attacks against coalition forces in Syria by groups affiliated with the Revolutionary Guard. President Joe Biden's order that federal employees get vaccinated against COVID-19 has been blocked by a federal appeals court. The 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans, in a decision Thursday, rejected arguments that Biden, as the nation's chief executive, has the same authority as the CEO of a private corporation to require that employees be vaccinated. The ruling from the full appeals court, 16 full-time judges at the time the case was argued, reversed an earlier ruling by a three-judge Fifth Circuit panel that had upheld the vaccination requirement. Judge Andrew Oldham, nominated to the court by then-President Donald Trump, wrote the opinion for a 10-member majority. The ruling maintains the status quo for federal employee vaccines. It upholds a preliminary injunction blocking the mandate issued by a federal judge in January 2022. At that point, the administration said nearly 98% of covered employees had been vaccinated, and Oldham noted, with the preliminary injunction arguments done, the case will return to that court for further arguments, when both sides will have to grapple with the White House's announcement that the COVID emergency will finally end on May 11, 2023. Kentucky's Democratic governor issued an election year veto Friday of a sweeping Republican bill aimed at regulating the lives of transgender youths that includes banning access to gender-affirming healthcare and restricting the bathrooms they can use. The bill also bans discussion of sexual orientation and gender identity in schools and allows teachers to refuse to refer to transgender students by the pronouns they use. It easily passed the GOP-dominated legislature with veto-proof margins, and lawmakers will reconvene next week for the final 2 days of this year's session, when they could vote to override the veto. Governor Andy Beshear said in a written veto message that the bill allows too much government interference in personal health care issues and rips away the freedom of parents to make medical decisions for their children. In his one-page message, he warned that the bill's repercussions would include an increase in youth suicides. The governor said, "My faith teaches me that all children are children of God, and Senate Bill 150 will endanger the children of Kentucky." Beshear told reporters later Friday that transgender children and their parents were among the Kentuckians who contacted his office as he reviewed the legislation. A 3-day strike by workers in the Los Angeles Unified School District ended Thursday, but it wasn't immediately clear if any progress was made in negotiations for higher pay for teachers, aides, bus drivers, custodians, and other support staff in the nation's second-largest school system. Teachers joined the picket lines in solidarity, shutting down instruction for the district's 500,000 students during the walkout by members of Local 99 of the Service Employees International Union, which represents about 30,000 of the lowest-paid school workers. Support staffers earn, on average, about $25,000 a year in Los Angeles, barely enough to get by in one of the most expensive cities in America. Mayor Karen Bass stepped in as mediator Wednesday after District Superintendent Alberto M. Carvalho accused the union of refusing to negotiate. Max Arias, executive director of ACIU Local 99, said the union was grateful that Bass was helping find a path out of our current impasse. There was no indication Thursday how the arbitration was going. Water containing a radioactive material has leaked for a second time from a nuclear plant near Minneapolis, and the plant will be shut down, but there is no danger to the public, the plant's owner said Thursday. A leak of what was believed to be hundreds of gallons of water containing tritium was discovered this week from a temporary fix at the Monticello nuclear generating plant, where 400,000 gallons of water with tritium leaked in November, Xcel Energy said in a statement Thursday. The plant, about 38 miles northwest of Minneapolis, is scheduled to power down Friday so permanent repairs can begin, the company said. There was a months-long delay in announcing the initial leak that raised questions about public safety and transparency, but industry experts said there was never a public health threat. The new leak, announced a day after Xcel Energy says it was discovered, was found to be coming from a temporary fix to the original leak, the company said in a statement. This time, the leak is anticipated to be in the hundreds of gallons. Children and teens in Utah would lose access to social media apps such as TikTok if they don't have parental consent and face other restrictions under a first-in-the-nation law designed to shield young people from the addictive platforms. Two laws signed by Republican Governor Spencer Cox Thursday prohibit kids under 18 from using social media between the hours of 10:30 p.m. and 6:30 a.m., require age verification for anyone who wants to use social media in the state, and open the door to lawsuits on behalf of children claiming social media harmed them. Collectively, they seek to prevent children from being lured to apps by addictive features and from having ads promoted to them. The companies are expected to sue before the laws take effect in March 2024. The crusade against social media in Utah's Republican supermajority legislature is the latest reflection of how politicians' perceptions of technology companies has changed, including among typically pro-business Republicans. 7 law enforcement officers have sued rap artist Afroman, accusing him of improperly using footage from a police raid on his Ohio home last year in his music videos. 4 deputies, 2 sergeants, and a detective with the Adams County Sheriff's Office brought the suit earlier this month, claiming invasion of privacy. Other law enforcement officers who were involved in the raid are not named as plaintiffs. The plaintiffs say the rapper, whose real name is Joseph Foreman, took footage of their faces obtained during the August 2022 raid and used it in music videos and social media posts without their consent. They say that has caused them emotional distress, embarrassment, ridicule, loss of reputation, and humiliation. The plaintiffs are seeking all of Foreman's profits from his use of their personas. That includes proceeds from the songs, music videos, and live event tickets, as well as the promotion of Foreman's Afroman brand, under which he sells beer, marijuana, t-shirts, and other merchandise. They also seek a court injunction to take down all videos and posts containing their personas. The suit names Foreman, his recording firm, and a Texas-based media distribution company as defendants. In an Instagram post made Wednesday, Foreman vowed to countersue for the undeniable damage this had on his client's family, career, and property. Now it's time for global updates. Long-range Russian bombardment killed at least 10 civilians and wounded 20 others in several parts of Ukraine on Friday, officials in Kiev said, as a Kremlin official boasted that its forces were prepared to repel an expected Ukrainian counteroffensive this spring. 5 people died in Kostyantynivka in eastern Ukraine's Donetsk province when a Russian missile hit an aid station. Ukrainian authorities last year established hundreds of points of invincibility, where residents hard-pressed by the war could warm up, recharge their cell phones, and get food. Prosecutors said the Russians attacked with S-300 anti-aircraft missiles. The civilians who died were refugees, according to Donetsk Governor Pavlo Kyrylenko. As the mostly artillery war of the winter months stretches into its second spring, Russian forces also used air-launched missiles, exploding drones, and gliding bombs to attack several regions, Ukrainian Air Force spokesman Yuri Inat said. 2 civilians were killed and 9 were wounded in the town of Bilopilia in Sumy province by an overnight rocket and artillery barrage and airstrikes, officials in the northeastern region said. In southern Ukraine, Russian shelling killed 1 person in the city of Kherson and killed another person and wounded 4 others in the town of Bilozerka. President Vladimir Zelensky visited that region Thursday. China threatened serious consequences Friday after the United States Navy sailed a destroyer around the disputed Paracel Islands in the South China Sea for the second day in a row, in a move Beijing claimed was a violation of its sovereignty and security. The warning comes amid growing tensions between China and the United States in the region, as Washington pushes back at Beijing's growingly assertive posture in the South China Sea, a strategic waterway it claims virtually in its entirety. On Thursday, after the US sailed the USS Milius guided missile destroyer near the Paracel Islands, China said its Navy and Air Force had forced the American vessel away, a claim the US military denied. The US on Friday sailed the ship again in the vicinity of the islands, which are occupied by China but also claimed by Taiwan and Vietnam, as part of what it called a freedom of navigation operation, challenging requirements from all three nations requiring either advance notification or permission before a military vessel sails by. Key Indian opposition leader Rahul Gandhi has lost his parliamentary seat after a court found him guilty of defamation over his remarks about Prime Minister Narendra Modi's surname, and he was disqualified from the lawmaking body, a parliamentary statement said on Friday. Gandhi, who represented a constituency in southern Kerala state as a member of the Congress party, was disqualified from his membership in the lower house of parliament from March 23, the date of his conviction, the statement said. Indian parliamentary rules say that a member loses his or her seat if convicted of a crime and sentenced to 2 or more years in prison. A court in the western city of Surat sentenced Gandhi to 2 years in prison on Thursday in the defamation case. But he won't go to jail immediately because the court granted him bail for 30 days to file an appeal against the verdict. If an appeals court sets aside Gandhi's conviction, he can get his seat back. Gandhi briefly visited the parliament on Friday morning. Several opposition leaders blocked proceedings in parliament on Friday and later tried to march to the president's palace in support of Gandhi, holding a sign that read, "Democracy in Danger." A Pakistani court on Friday shielded from arrest former Prime Minister Imran Khan until at least next week, amid a roiling political crisis that has pitted the celebrity politician against the current government and spilled over into street protests. Khan was ousted through a no-confidence vote in Parliament last April. Since then, the 70-year-old former cricket player turned politician has become embroiled in more than 100 legal cases against him, including graft while in office. The ruling by the Lahore High Court was another reprieve for embattled Khan, who is now the country's top opposition leader. The court order virtually prevents his arrest until March 27 over accusations that he incited supporters from his Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party to violence when he failed to appear before a court in the capital Islamabad because of hours-long clashes between his party and the police. Since November, Khan has avoided appearances before courts in Islamabad in at least 3 cases, including a graft charge when he was wounded in a gun attack at a protest rally in the eastern Punjab province. Khan says his life is in danger and that's why he is seeking bail to avoid appearances before judges in multiple cases. Now it's time for business news. Today's New York stock close price is 14,758.57. The NYSE Composite is increased by 65.55 points or 0.45%. Tokyo stock close price is 27,385.25. The Nikkei 225 index is decreased by 34.36 points or 0.13%. Shanghai stock close price is 3,265.6537. The Shanghai Composite Index is decreased by 21.00 points or 0.64%. Hong Kong stock close price is 19,915.68. The Hang Seng Index is decreased by 133.96 points or 0.67%. Bombay stock close price is 57,527.10. The Sensex index is decreased by 398.18 points or 0.69%. Let's have a look on today's sports stories. When the horn sounded on the greatest victory in the history of Florida Atlantic athletics, Nick Boyd and Brian Greenlee hopped onto the press row table to celebrate. Instead of going to the locker room, some of the Owls players made their way up into the stands to sing New York with their fans. The Boca Raton, Florida-based school that has only been competing in Division I for the last 30 years and had just one previous appearance in the NCAA tournament, is now a victory away from the Final Four. The Owls used a second-half push led by Michael Forrest to upset fourth-seeded Tennessee 62-55 on Thursday night in the Sweet 16. Ninth-seeded FAU will play third-seeded Kansas State in the East Region Final at Madison Square Garden on Saturday. South Carolina leading scorer Gregory G.G. Jackson II said Friday that he is entering the NBA draft after one season in college. The 6'9" freshman said on Instagram Live that his year in college with the Gamecocks helped him mature. "Now, I am declaring for the NBA draft, just like that," he said. Jackson, who is 18 years old, is projected as a mid-first round selection. He started 29 of 32 games for the 11-21 Gamecocks, averaging a team-high 15.4 points a game. He also led South Carolina with 26 blocks and 24 steals. Jackson from Columbia was rated the #1 college prospect in 2023, but he reclassified to join his hometown team and first-year coach Lamont Paris. Let's have a look on today's weather forecast. That's all in today's news. Keep watching Millennium News 24 for latest update. Millennium TV USA and the Millennium News 24 network is transmitted and available to be watched free for all at TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV and Apple TV. And also in all European countries and Australia available with the Sky Network, Worldwide Jadoo TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jago BD Network and Horizon Satellite globally. Stay connected with us for all types of informative and entertainment program. Thank you.